Hi, my name is Victoria Rivera and I'm a wellness psychotherapist in New York City, and welcome to Mental Health Wellness Wednesday. So October 6th through the 12th is actually Mental Health Awareness Week, and tomorrow is World Mental Health Day and National Depression Day. So the theme for this week is actually stigma this year. So they're talking about stigma. So stigma is feeling kind of a feeling of shame or blame about the symptoms and the issues that you have, and that noting that people are kind of like looking at you or feeling about you in a certain way just because you're diagnosed with something. So stigma in mental health is a huge issue, and most people don't want to talk about even going to therapy, let alone that they have like symptoms of depression or anxiety. So today I actually wanted to just share with you my experience this weekend and how this relates to stigma and mental health, and then further into mental therapy. So this weekend I had the honor of going to the School of Life conference here in New York City. So if you don't know what the School of Life is, it's based out of London, from the philosopher Alain de Botton, and he talks a lot about emotional intelligence. We're not born with understanding our emotions. We're not born with understanding how to have relationships. We're taught to have relationships through our families primarily, then our peers, society, and what we get about our relationships and the messages that we get oftentimes are wrong. And so we have to really sit back, understand ourselves first and foremost, and where we've come from. So this is self-knowledge, and I talk about this all the time on this series. And then being able to like tell people about how you are so that they can understand you and that you can have better relationships moving forward with them. So the School of Life is something that I've been following actually for many, many years, and it has informed not only my work, but it's informed my life. And I have to say it's life-changing, and I was, again, so honored to be there, and I got to actually talk to him. I was really excited. Anyways, so if you saw my story, you saw that I posted some questions that he had asked, some thoughts, and just things about the School of Life that they believe that I also am in alignment with. And so one of the first things I think so that we talked about actually is he asked is, how are you suffering? Because most of the time we ask people how they're doing, what's going on, how their work is, and what kind of job they have, but we're not asking deeper questions about what's going on with you right now that is making you suffer. And everybody has something. So we did an exercise where we had to ask our neighbor how they were suffering, and they shared with us what they were suffering with, and we shared with them. And it was a very powerful exercise and experience, because everybody is suffering with something, and that's just something that we don't really kind of take the time out to understand about ourselves, let alone about other people, that people are actually really suffering. And so, when we talk about like these mental health issues like anxiety and depression, we'll just kind of start with that, because those are the basics. And like we've talked about before on this series, that anxiety and depression are the top two mental health issues in the United States. So where does it kind of stem from, and where does it come from? So, what we do know is that our brains, when we're infants and when we're children, download everything that's around us, and our primary relationships, that information that we get from about relationships, are from our parents. And so if our parents are suffering, which oftentimes they are, because they're struggling just as much as we are, and we think that the adults have all of the answers, but they actually really don't have all the answers, and they get cranky and they get tired and they have like issues. So how do you kind of understand where your issues stem from based on some of the aspects of your parents? And so he had a great slide on your childhood situation and perhaps the adult legacy that it left. And I will add this onto a post because I think it's really important. So again, this is from the School of Life. This is not my stuff, but I'm in alignment with it. So if you had a parent that was hypervigilant around dirt, you might be more likely to have shame around your body. And shame, we know, can cause a lot of anxiety and symptoms of depression and socially isolating yourself. If you have a highly anxious parent, we know as adults you could have a catastrophizing mindset and a restrictive mindset about the world, an inability to self-soothe, and that there's always a feeling that something bad is going to happen, or a feeling of impending doom that something bad is going to happen if you have if you come from an anxious family or anxious parent. Lack of focus and loving care. You could have a deep feeling of shame and unworthiness. If we know that if we don't feel like you feel loved, it becomes the core belief that you're not worthy, that you're not lovable, that you're not good enough. And that's something that people struggle with who have depression and anxiety. A depressed parent. If you have a depressed parent, you often will have this feeling of wanting to please them and kind of like change their mood. So you could have this need to be extra good and to be cheerful, even though you might not necessarily be feeling like that. Combative or furious parent. People-pleasing behavior, avoidant behavior, definitely some of the things that could happen if you have a parent that's like that. No one listened to your needs, avoidant behavior, because what we know is that if you don't feel like you're going to get your needs met, why bother even trying? And if you remember that still face experiment, that is a very evident way of how kids and infants can pick up parents who are not loving and giving, and not meeting their needs. They become avoidant and turn inwards. Hopes, constantly frustrated. You can be turn cynical, angry, more irritable, being frustrated about having hopes in life and then not being able to kind of like meet them. And a letdown in parental love, where you really didn't feel, again, that love and that sense of like worthiness and care, and you may self-sabotage yourself in love. And so it's that you don't feel like you're worthy, you don't feel like you deserve it, and then at the end you don't end up allowing yourself to get that. So I think a lot of the mental health issues, especially with the anxiety and depression that we're struggling with, do stem from these earlier parent and childhood interactions. And so it's very important to understand what those may have been for you. And there's a severity and, like we've talked about before, spectrum of mental health issues. And so this is not the end all and be all, but I think it's a good place to start, especially if you're trying to figure out who you are and why you react the way that you react and why you feel the way that you feel. And I just wanted to share with you, if you wanted to take a more in-depth screening, I found this really great website that's called helpothers.org, and they have all of these screenings on depression, on anxiety, on psychosis, even PTSD, all the different mental health symptoms and syndromes and issues that we've been talking about over the last several years, if you've been following me on Mental Health Wellness Wednesday. So I hope that that's helpful. Thank you so much. Again, check out the School of Life. It is life-changing. And thank you so much for checking out the Mental Health Wellness Wednesday. I appreciate you all following and listening to all the things that I'm saying, and I hope that it's helpful. And I hope it's helpful for you to live a more purposeful and meaningful life and to take care of yourself so that you can help take care of others and make the world a better place. All right, thank you so much. Goodbye.